Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It really helps keep these stories coming. And while you're here, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. I never thought the world would fall apart while I was sitting in my dark apartment, staring at lines of code. I was deep into a job. Something low risk, just cracking a few encrypted files for a client who paid well. Outside, the city buzzed like it always did. Horns blared, sirens wailed in the distance. The hum of life carried on. Then my screen flickered. A message popped up on my terminal, something I hadn't seen before. Urgent, do not leave your home. Lock all doors and windows, trust no one. It came from a government server, one I had breached months ago but never touched since. At first, I thought it was a test, a scare tactic or an automated drill. But then another message followed, this time in red. They are not human. Do not engage. If bitten, termination is advised. I sat back in my chair, my pulse spiking. My hands hovered over the keyboard, unsure of what to do. Was this some kind of classified information leak? A military experiment gone wrong? My mind raced through possibilities, but then, through my open window, I heard something that made my blood run cold. A scream, high-pitched, raw, and cut short too fast. Then another, and another. I rushed to my window, peering down at the street below. People ran in every direction. Some knocking over trash cans, others smashing against car doors in blind panic. One man stumbled, then was tackled by a figure that moved too fast, too aggressively. The attacker bit down on the man's neck. Blood, too much blood, pooled on the pavement. My stomach twisted. This wasn't a drill. My phone buzzed violently on my desk, startling me. I grabbed it. It was a text from my only real friend, Mason. They got out. It's real. If you're still alive, get offline now. My hands trembled as I typed back. What's happening? Who got out? His reply came instantly. The lab. It started there. It's spreading. If you're bitten, you turn. I was about to ask more when I heard it. Something scraping against my apartment door. Slow, deliberate. Then a groan, low and guttural. My body locked up. Something was outside. I moved silently, reaching for the metal bar I kept by my desk. The door handle jiggled. My heart pounded. I wasn't ready for this. Then, bang! Something slammed against the door, hard enough to rattle the frame. I backed away, my mind screaming for a plan. If I was going to survive the next 12 hours, I needed to think fast. The doorframe shook again. Something, or someone, was slamming into it with unsettling force. My breath hitched as I gripped the metal bar tighter. I had no weapons, no training. Just a hacker sitting in a dark apartment with nothing but a screen and a bad feeling in my gut. Another bang. The wood splintered. I backed up until I hit the desk, my mind racing. I had seconds to act. My apartment was on the 5th floor, no fire escape. The only way out was the front door or the window, and I wasn't about to test gravity. I needed time to think, time to plan, so I did the only thing I could. I grabbed the heavy bookshelf next to the door and shoved with everything I had. It scraped against the floor, loud and jarring. But I didn't care. I pressed my weight against it just as the doorframe gave another sickening crack. Whatever was out there snarled. The sound was wrong. Deep, wet, like someone struggling to breathe through shredded lungs. My stomach twisted, but I held firm. Then silence. No more banging, no more scraping, just my ragged breathing filling the room. I stayed still, listening. Was it gone? Then my phone buzzed again. Mason. Get out. Now. I hesitated, my fingers shaking as I typed, Locked in, something's at my door. His response was instant. More will come. They hear noise. If you can't leave, go dark. Go dark. I knew what he meant. It wasn't about hiding in the shadows. It was about disappearing. No signals, no devices, no trace. I moved fast, yanking the Ethernet cable from my rig and shutting down every connected device. My phone, my laptop, even my smartwatch. Everything. The world outside was collapsing, and any digital footprint could be a beacon to something worse. But then I heard it, another sound. Not from the door, from inside the apartment. A slow, dragging noise. A rasping inhale. My blood ran cold. I turned my head, scanning the dim room. My apartment wasn't big, just a bedroom, a kitchen, and a small bathroom. I had checked everything earlier. I was alone. Or so I thought. Then, from the hallway near the bathroom, something moved. A shadow, small but shifting. My body went rigid. The power outage. The blackout an hour ago. Had I left my door unlocked before it happened? A shape lurched forward, stepping into the weak glow of my monitor. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Finch. Or what was left of her. Her face was slack, skin a sickly gray, her mouth smeared with something dark. Her right arm hung at an unnatural angle, bones jutting where they shouldn't. But it was her eyes that sent ice down my spine, milky, unfocused, yet locked onto me like a predator spotting prey. I tightened my grip on the metal bar, my heart pounded. She took another step, then another. Her lips parted, revealing teeth stained with something I didn't want to think about. I had no way out, no escape. And I had seconds before she was on me. Mrs. Finch took another step forward, slow, deliberate. Her broken arm twitched, her fingers curling like claws. I tightened my grip on the metal bar, my mind screaming for a solution. I'd never been in a fight before, let alone fought something that wasn't human anymore. She let out a low, rattling breath, then she lunged. Instinct took over. I swung the bar with everything I had. It connected with the side of her head with a sickening crack. She staggered, but she didn't go down. Didn't even scream. She turned her head back toward me, her mouth stretching open wider than it should have. My stomach flipped. I had seconds to act. I swung again, this time at her legs. The hit landed square on her knee and she buckled, collapsing onto the floor. But she didn't stop. Her fingers clawed at the floor as she dragged herself toward me, teeth gnashing. I backed up fast, nearly tripping over my chair. I had to finish this, had to end her before she got to me. One more hit. I gritted my teeth and brought the bar down as hard as I could. The impact made my hands go numb. Mrs. Finch twitched once, then went still. My breath came in ragged gasps. My whole body shook. I had just no, don't think about it. I stepped back, my mind racing. There was no time to process what had just happened. Mason's warning echoed in my head. More will come. They hear noise. I had to go, now. I grabbed my backpack and stuffed it with whatever I could find. My flashlight, a few protein bars, my old Swiss Army knife. Not enough, but it would have to do. Then I heard it. Not from my apartment, from outside. A chorus of groans. Footsteps, many footsteps. I crept to the window and peered down. My heart nearly stopped. The street below was chaos. Dozens of them, maybe more, moving in clumsy, jerking motions. Some ran, some stumbled, all of them hunting. And then, as if drawn by some unseen force, a few of them turned. Their heads tilted upward. They were looking right at me. They saw me. I don't know how, but they did. Their lifeless eyes locked onto my window, their twisted faces twitching in hunger. Some just stood there, swaying slightly, but others, the fast ones, reacted immediately. One by one, they began to move. Some sprinted, crashing into parked cars and tripping over debris. Others climbed, clawing at anything they could use to pull themselves up. I even saw one leap onto a dumpster, using it as a boost to reach a fire escape. I was running out of time. I spun around, scanning my apartment for anything I could use. The front door was still blocked by the bookshelf. No way I could move it in time. That left only one option. The window. 5th floor, no fire escape, but there was a narrow ledge that ran along the building side, not exactly safe, but better than being torn apart. I threw my backpack over my shoulder, took one last deep breath, and climbed onto the windowsill. The air outside was cold, and the wind howled through the city like a warning. Below me, the streets were turning into a battlefield, people running, screaming, getting caught. The fast ones tackled their victims in seconds, while the slow ones swarmed like a rising tide. I edged along the ledge, gripping the rough brick wall for balance. One wrong move and I'd fall 5 stories. Then, from inside my apartment crash, the door burst open. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I just moved. Step by step, I inched toward my only hope, a neighboring balcony just a few feet away. If I could jump, I'd be safe. But then a shriek, high-pitched and guttural, erupted from behind me. I risked a glance back, and my stomach twisted. One of them had crawled through my window, not climbed, crawled. Its body twisted unnaturally, its arms stretching farther than they should have. Its jaw hung open as it let out another piercing screech. Then it leapt at me. I jumped. Time slowed. My body hit the balcony railing hard, my ribs screaming in pain as I barely caught myself. I scrambled over, tumbling onto the cold metal floor. Behind me, the thing sailed past, shrieking all the way down, until it hit the pavement below with a sickening crunch. I lay there, gasping, my body trembling from adrenaline. No time to rest. I forced myself up, scanning my surroundings. I had made it to another apartment, but that didn't mean I was safe. I tried the balcony door, locked, figures. I pulled out my Swiss Army knife and wedged it into the gap between the door and the frame, wiggling it back and forth until click. I was in. The apartment was dark. Too dark. Something about it felt wrong. Then I saw it. On the floor, a phone, screen cracked, its flashlight still on, pointing toward a closet door. And from inside that closet, something breathed. The breathing from the closet was slow, ragged, not human. I froze, every muscle in my body locking up. The weak beam of the phone's flashlight stretched across the floor, illuminating the bottom of the closet door. Something shifted inside. A slow scraping sound like nails dragging against wood. I gripped my metal bar tighter. My heartbeat hammered in my ears. Think. If I opened that door, I was dead. If I turned my back on it, I was probably dead. Either way, I had seconds to decide. I took a slow step back, creak. The floorboard beneath me groaned. The breathing inside the closet hitched, stopped, then bang. The door exploded outward as something slammed into it from the inside. I ran. Didn't think, didn't look, just ran. I bolted through the apartment, jumping over an overturned coffee table and crashing into a chair on my way to the front door. The thing behind me snarled, wood splintering as it forced its way out. I fumbled for the door handle, locked. My shaking hands yanked at the deadbolt just as a shadow lunged from behind. I dove forward, twisting the handle just in time. Wham! I hit the hallway floor hard, my shoulders screaming in pain. Behind me, the thing slammed against the doorframe, shrieking as it flailed its arms. I kicked the door shut and scrambled back, heart pounding. The apartment's peephole gave me the briefest glimpse of what was inside. Not a person. Not a normal infected. This one was different. Its limbs were too long. Its fingers stretched unnaturally. Its mouth was wide, lips peeled back in a permanent, grotesque grin. And it was watching me. Not thrashing. Not mindlessly attacking. Just staring. A shiver crawled down my spine. I didn't stick around to find out more. I turned and sprinted down the hall. The building was eerily silent. No screaming, no sirens. Just the occasional distant thump from somewhere below. I needed a way out. The stairs were risky. If one of those things was waiting, I'd be trapped. The elevator was worse. Then, I spotted it, the rooftop access door. If I could get to the roof, maybe I could find a way across the buildings. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my legs burning. When I reached the top, I shoved the rooftop door open and almost fell backward. The city was burning. Flames rose from shattered buildings. Smoke choked the air, drifting up into the night sky. Helicopters buzzed in the distance, spotlights sweeping over the chaos below. Gunfire cracked somewhere far off, and in the streets, hundreds, thousands of them. Moving, swarming. The city wasn't falling apart. It was already gone. I took a shaky breath, my mind spinning. There was no way I was surviving this alone. I needed help. And there was only one person I trusted. I grabbed my phone, my fingers trembling as I powered it back on. I had one message from Mason. Meet me at the tower. If you're alive, get there. Don't trust anyone else. I clenched my jaw. The tower, of course. But reaching it meant getting through hell. And I had no idea what else was waiting for me down there. The city was gone. From the rooftop, I could see the truth. Civilization had collapsed faster than anyone realized. Fire and smoke twisted through the skyline, the streets below swarming with the infected. Mason's message was clear. Get to the tower, don't trust anyone else. I had no choice. I scanned the rooftops, looking for a way down. Jumping was out of the question, but about 20 feet away, another building sat slightly lower. If I could make it across, I might have a chance to reach the street unnoticed. I backed up, took a deep breath, then sprinted. At the last second, I pushed off hard, my feet leaving the solid ground. For a split second, I was weightless. Then, I crashed down onto the rooftop, rolling to absorb the impact. Pain jolted through my ribs, but I was still breathing. No time to stop. I sprinted to the building's rooftop door and tried the handle unlocked. Carefully, I stepped inside. The hallway was dark, but not empty. Half-eaten bodies littered the floor. Some were still twitching. The smell was unbearable. I covered my mouth and pressed on. The stairwell was my best bet. I needed to get to street level fast. As I crept down the steps, I heard voices. Not groaning, not snarling. Real voices. I froze, ears straining. Out of time, man. We need to move. A low voice, calm, controlled. Another, more panicked. They're everywhere. We should have stayed at the station. Footsteps echoed below. Survivors. Armed survivors. I hesitated. Mason's warning flashed in my mind. Don't trust anyone else. But going solo through the streets, that was suicide. I had to decide now. Then, a loud bang rang through the stairwell. A gunshot, followed by screaming, and the howl of something not human. I gripped my metal bar tighter and moved. Whatever was happening down there, I was about to walk straight into it. The stairwell echoed with chaos. Screams. Gunfire. Something inhuman shrieking. I flattened myself against the wall, gripping my metal bar so tight my knuckles ached. I had two options: turn back or move forward. Going back meant climbing onto another rooftop, wasting time I didn't have. Going forward meant walking into whatever was happening below. I moved forward. Step by step, I crept down the stairs, my breath shallow. The screaming had stopped. The gunfire too. Only wet, sickening noises remained. I reached the second-floor landing and peered around the corner. 3 bodies. 2 men. 1 woman. They'd been torn apart. The smell of blood hit me like a sledgehammer. Their weapons, an old shotgun and a crowbar, lay nearby, slick with... I didn't want to think about it. And in the middle of it all, it. Not a regular infected. Not even like the thing in the closet. This one was worse. It crouched over a body, its back hunched, muscles twitching. Its head twitched at odd angles, like it couldn't decide which way to look. Its arms were too long, its fingers ending in jagged claws. Then it did something I wasn't ready for. It spoke. A ragged whisper, warped and broken, but clear enough to send ice through my veins. More. The word was barely a breath, but it made my stomach twist. I needed to move now. Slowly, I crouched down and reached for the shotgun. My fingers wrapped around the stock. The thing's head snapped toward me. I froze. Its eyes weren't milky like the others. They were black, reflective, like a void staring back at me. Then it moved. 1 second it was crouched, the next, it was on me. I threw myself back as claws ripped through the air where my throat had been a second ago. I barely managed to bring up the shotgun before it slammed into me, knocking the air from my lungs. My back hit the stairs. My vision blurred. The thing loomed over me, its mouth stretching into a horrible grin. I pulled the trigger. Boom! The blast sent it reeling. Black ichor sprang from its shoulder. It shrieked, high-pitched, piercing, wrong. I scrambled to my feet, pumped the shotgun, fired again. Click. Empty. The thing's breathing turned ragged, but it was still standing, still smiling. I ran. Didn't think. Didn't look back. Just ran. I crashed through the lobby doors and into the streets. The city around me was madness, fires, wrecked cars, figures moving in the shadows. No time to stop, no time to plan. I needed to get to the tower, and I had no idea if that thing was still behind me. I ran. The shotgun was useless, empty, but I still held on to it. Maybe I thought I'd find shells. Maybe I just needed something to hold on to. The streets were worse than before. Fires raged unchecked, casting flickering shadows against the ruined buildings. Sirens blared in the distance, but no one was coming. No rescue. No help. Just them. The infected were everywhere, some wandering aimlessly, others running, hunting. Some just stood still, heads twitching like they were listening to something I couldn't hear. And somewhere behind me, that thing. I didn't stop. Couldn't. Mason's tower was at least a mile away, visible through the smoke. A tall, glass and steel structure, once a hub for tech startups, now my only hope. I cut through an alley, keeping low. The air was thick with the smell of rot and burning plastic. Trash was piled high, some of it moving. I didn't check why. As I neared the end of the alley, I heard voices. Not infected, human. I peeked around the corner. A group of survivors. 5 of them, armed, pistols, bats, even a hunting rifle. They had a truck, engine running, but they weren't moving. They were arguing. I stepped out, hands raised. Hey. Bad idea. Every gun snapped in my direction. Who the hell are you? A guy in a leather jacket barked, pointing a pistol at my face. Not infected, I said quickly. Just trying to get to the tower. The group exchanged glances. The woman with the rifle looked me over, then shook her head. Tower's suicide, whole city's crawling. I have someone waiting for me. Leather Jacket scoffed. Then your friend's dead. I clenched my jaw. Mason wasn't dead. He couldn't be. Then a sound. Low, wrong. The black-eyed thing from the stairwell. It was close. The group heard it too. Their leader gestured to the truck. We're leaving. Now. I took a step forward. Take me with you. No room. They climbed in. The engine revved. They weren't waiting. I had one chance. As the truck lurched forward, I sprinted. Jumped. My fingers caught the edge of the truck bed. My arms screamed, but I pulled myself up. The woman with the rifle turned. Are you serious? Throw him out, Leather Jacket snapped, then thump. Something landed on the roof of the truck. The woman screamed. A claw punched through the metal, ripping into the driver. The truck veered wildly. The black-eyed thing was here. Chaos erupted, gunfire, screaming. The truck slammed into a wrecked car. The impact launched me forward. I hit the pavement hard, pain exploding through my ribs. Dazed, I turned. The truck was wrecked, flames licking at the hood, no movement inside. Except on the roof. The creature stood there, staring at me. It tilted its head, then spoke again. More? Then it dropped to all fours and charged. I didn't have time to think. I grabbed the shotgun, swung it like a bat, and hit the thing in the face. It barely flinched. Claws lashed out. I dodged barely, but pain ripped through my side. It got me. I stumbled back, clutching my ribs. Blood, not much, but enough. The thing grinned, ready to lunge again. Then, out of nowhere, a sniper shot rang out. The creature's head snapped back. Black ichor sprayed from its skull. It swayed, twitched, then collapsed. Silence. Then a voice crackled in my earpiece. Took you long enough. Mason. I looked up. On the rooftop of the nearest building, a figure stood, sniper rifle in hand. He waved. Let's get you inside before more show up. I exhaled, my legs nearly giving out. I was alive. For now. But something told me this was only the beginning. Then collapsed. Silence. Then a voice crackled in my earpiece. Took you long enough. Mason. I looked up. On the rooftop of the nearest building, a figure stood, sniper rifle in hand. He waved. Let's get you inside before more show up. I exhaled, my legs nearly giving out. I was alive. For now. But something told me this was only the beginning. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support keeps these creepypastas coming. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and never ignore the feeling that something is watching.